Hey everybody, welcome to the video. Let's go over the Coke Zero Sugar 400 on Saturday night, August 29th at 7:30 p.m. at Daytona. And I could not be more excited for this race. It's going to be absolutely awesome. It's the last regular season cup race, and it's a plate race, so it should be absolutely wild and it should be awesome to watch. If you guys have been watching my channel for quite some time, you guys know I absolutely love plate racing. It's not only great from a fan standpoint, but it's great for DFS purposes as well. So I'm super excited. I'm sure you guys are as well. And I also love night races too. So we pretty much checks every single box here. It's going to be a good one. But before we continue, as always, if you guys could just leave a like. I know it's something as small as just leaving a like on a video, but the more you guys interact with my content, leaving likes, leaving comments, and all that fun stuff, it really does help me out, and I really do appreciate it, and you guys already do a good job of that as well, so thank you for that. And if you're new to the channel, you might as well hit that subscribe button. I'm here all season long trying to help you guys become better NASCAR DFS players, and I cover other sports as well. So if you're going to keep coming back to the channel each and every single day, or each and every single week, you might as well hit that subscribe button and turn the notification bell so you don't miss out whenever I post new videos. And I also go live for each and every single race day. You can come in and I answer pretty much all of your questions. I mean, just come in, hang out, and pretty much have a good time, talk about ownership and that fun stuff. So if you don't want to miss the live streams, hit that notification bell and you'll get notified when I go live. Hopefully. Sometimes it doesn't work, but hopefully you will. And if you want to follow me on social media, I'm at Pennell16 over on Twitter, cpen16 over on IG. Don't post much fantasy stuff on Instagram, but if you want to see my Warzone stuff on my Instagram story and just whatever I'm up to, feel free to follow me there. And if you want to support more content over on Patreon, it's always much appreciated. We got 320 plus people. You can hop into the Discord chat where we hang out each and every single day. I'll answer all your questions there, and I'll pretty much be in there all day at any time of the day because I don't really do much else. So if you want a question answered or whatever, hop into the Discord, or you can just get access to all the extra stuff that I put out, including the data sheet, the projections, which have been pretty good this season. They have taken down quite a few tournaments, so I feel like those have been pretty good so far. My power rankings, which is basically just an algorithm-based method ranking all the drivers based on a bunch of stuff. Green flag speed ratings, the cheat sheet, the GPP driver exposures. It's my own personal GPP driver exposures. I build 150 lineups each and every single week. So I pretty much show you exactly what I'm playing. I don't give out my lineups, but I show you my exact exposures with notes on each and every single driver. I cannot be more transparent than that. The heat map, the previous optimal lineups, the 2020 optimal lineups, the starting position track stats, the Daytona slate analysis. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff on there. So if you're interested, links in the description below. If you're not, hey, that's fine. Let's just dive into today's slate. And before we continue, I want to mention a couple of more things. So I'm going to do another contest this weekend. So if you want to be entered, just in the comments below, tell me your DraftKings username, say something nice, say something mean, whatever you want to do. Just put your DraftKings username in the comments below. And the first 100 people that comment, or the first 100 people that accept the invite, you'll get into the contest. Now, last time I did it where it was free and I just personally paid you out, but I had quite a few people in my live stream telling me just to make it paid and y'all can just compete for the money from DraftKings. So I guess that's what we're going to do. I would probably make it anywhere from $1 to $5. You can guys let me know in the comments below if $5 is too much or is $1 is fine or too little. I don't know. You guys have to let me know. I'm fine with any amount if you guys want, but if you want to be entered in the DK contest, just put your DraftKings username below, and I will invite you guys as quick as I can. I have to do it all on my thumb, so it takes a little bit, but I will do it. And the live stream, since the race is at 7:30 p.m., I'm thinking on Saturday night we can go probably around 4 to 5 p.m. for the live stream. So that's pretty much it for the housekeeping stuff. Sorry, this is 4 minutes in. We haven't talked anything about NASCAR, but hey, it's my video and I can do what I want. You can skip through it if you don't want to listen to it. But anyway, let's get into the preview of this race. This is the Coke Zero Sugar 400. There is your outline of Daytona. It's a very large track, and it's pretty steep as well. This is Daytona International Speedway. It's a super speedway track, which is also a plate race, which I know now is more of a tapered spacer, but I'm going to call it a plate race, so apologize if that offends you, but I don't see why it would offend you. So I'm going to keep calling it a plate race. It's 2.5 miles in length. It's one of the biggest tracks in the series. Only 160 laps, and there's 120 Dominator points available, but at Daytona, Dominator points don't mean a thing to me. So I've mentioned it so many times, but there's like the whole spiel on Daytona and why we stack the back here. So the main strategy at Daytona is we stack the back. I don't care about Dominator points. It's going to sound weird, but I'm telling you right now, Ross Chastain is a better play than Kevin Harvick on the pole. As crazy as that sounds. If you're new to NASCAR, you're probably saying this guy is crazy. I'm turning off the video because he's stupid. I get it, but trust me, the guys that are starting in the back in Daytona tend to be the best plays. And that's just not me being biased and just saying it off the top of my head. This is true and it can be backed up by facts. And I'm going to show you a sneak preview of some of the stuff I have on Patreon, including some starting position track stats and some previous optimal lineups at Daytona. Because I know I can say it, but you guys might not believe it. So I'm going to show you. So let's head to the starting position track stats at Daytona. And let's see. So we will start it by the most average DraftKings points per race at starting position. So as you're going to see, we're going from, descending order, I believe that's what it's called. So starting 34th, that's the most DraftKings points per race. 29th, 31st, 30th, 39th, 36th. And these are usually some pretty bad cars for the most part. So I'm not making this up. The guys that are starting in the back tend to score more DraftKings points. And if we're going to the worst DraftKings points per race, starting 15th, 3rd, 1st, 4th, 9th. Look, it's pretty much all the guys starting up front. And this is because at plate races, everyone's driving in a big pack, and we don't see guys get huge leads and dominate a race like we saw Kevin Harvick did last week at Dover. And that's because everyone's going to be in a tight pack, and then usually, since they're all in a tight pack, one aggressive move or one bad block or whatever can pretty much wipe out half the cars. And the guys that are starting up front, and if they wreck out, they can get negative 30-some points. Like if Kevin Harvick wrecks out of the race first, he's going to finish with, if we go to the heat map, I can actually show you guys, this is something that's going to be pretty useful this week, is the heat map that I actually need to update really quick. Okay, sorry, that is fixed. So Kevin Harvick, look, he's starting on the pole. If he finishes first, no dominator points, he gets 46. This is basically just how many points they'd score if they finish in a certain spot without putting dominator points into effect. So let's say Harvick finishes outside the top 35. I mean, he can score anywhere from negative 25 to negative 35 points. But meanwhile, if someone like Brendan Gaughan, if he was the first guy that wrecks, he scores 4 points. So he could still outscore Kevin Harvick by nearly 40 points just by finishing almost last, depending on if Kevin Harvick wrecked or not. So this is how we stack the bag. Everyone pretty much has an equal chance of wrecking. And the guys that are starting up front tend to wreck more because they're the guys being aggressive. They want to win the race. The guys in the back are pretty much just chilling for the most part. When all those guys wreck, they just lock in their place differential points. So this is why we stack the back, guys. It's a plate race. Everyone's in tight packs, and there's pretty much always a big one. And if we're looking at the previous optimal lineups at Daytona, I don't usually do this, but I just want to make a point on why we stack the back at Daytona. So if we're looking at the previous optimal lineups, look, guys starting 21st, 27th, 29th, 39th, 36th, 30th. This was at the Daytona 500 this season. As you can see, there was no one inside the top 20 that made the optimal lineup. The year before that, again, no one inside the top 20. Year before that, had a guy starting 10th. It was Denny Hamlin. He's also very, very good at Daytona. Again, no one inside the top 10. This time we had one guy in the top 10, which was Ryan Blaney, and then we had Ricky Stenhouse starting 6th. But as you can see, you want to stack the back. And if we're using these past 6 race sample sizes, it's an average salary of $39,900. 1 through 12th is half a driver. 13th through 24th is 1.3 drivers. And 25th through 40th is 4 drivers. The math says you stack the back, and that's what you do. Now, if you're stacking the back, sometimes the big one's not going to happen until the very end of the race. So your lineups are probably going to look like dust for the most part. So don't think your lineups are dead. You're going to look like an idiot for most of the race, and you're probably thinking, why did I listen to this stupid guy on YouTube? Which I get. But when the big one happens, and it will pretty much happen. I mean, this is the last last regular season race. People are going to need to get into the playoffs. There's going to be some crazy moves. So I think there's going to be a lot of wrecks here. These guys will end up moving up, and it's the safe route to go. Now, in cash games, you stack the back in tournaments. You can target a couple of the guys starting inside the top 10, top 12, whatever, guys like Denny Hamlin, Blaney we will talk about. But in cash games, don't start any of these guys up front because it's just too risky, and it's usually not optimal. So now that we spent about 10 minutes talking about preview and then plugging and then the intro, I think we can get on to the driver-by-driver breakdown at this point. And let me see if I can pull it up on the spreadsheet. So I showed you guys a little preview of stuff you can get on Patreon there, and there's a lot of other stuff as well. But we'll start up top with Chase Elliott, 11,000, starting 27th. I figured DraftKings would make him the highest priced driver this week, and it's certainly justified. And really, salary doesn't matter here. It's pretty easy to fit in whoever the heck you want because we can definitely target some of those scrubs like Joey Gase and JJ Gailey. I mean, they're certainly in play. So salary's not a thing. Don't care about the price tags. So just looking at starting position and then the name and whatever, that's the only thing important. And Chase Elliott starting 27th. Yeah, he's a fantastic play, but there is merit to going underweight on these big-name drivers starting in the back because, look, they pretty much have an equal chance of getting into a wreck. And a guy like Chase Elliott, he's a guy that's certainly more, I would say, probable to get into a wreck than a guy like Brendan Gaughan or Corey LaJoie, those kind of guys, because those guys are going to hang in the back and just wait for the wrecks, and they'll try to make some noise later on and get a good finish. Chase Elliott's a guy that's probably going to want to try to win this race and be aggressive, so he's definitely got a decent chance of getting into a wreck. So I think in tournaments, I wouldn't hate being underweight. You don't fade the guy. I also wouldn't hate being overweight if you just really like Chase Elliott. But there is merit to being underweight on these high-owned big-name drivers, because a guy like, even like Ross Chastain could easily outscore Chase Elliott on this slate, as crazy as that sounds. So yes, I do like Chase Elliott. I think he's a fantastic cash game option. If looking at his numbers at Daytona, again, they have not even been that great. He's only averaging 4.7 DraftKings points per race, average finish of 26, running position of 25.5, no top 5s, no top 10s, no top 15s, and 2 top 20s. He's going to go out super well in projections for me, and I would play him in cash games, but I don't think you just have to absolutely lock button him. There's certainly guys that can outscore him on this slate. And look, if he gets into a wreck and you're underweight, you're going to be looking really good in tournaments. So Chase Elliott is obviously a fine play, but again, just be careful with the big names starting in the back, because they have an equal chance of getting into a wreck, and they're going to be higher owned as well. Then dropping down to Denny Hamlin. So I don't love any of these guys starting inside the top 10, top 12, whatever. But if I had to pick one to be overweight on, it would be Denny Hamlin, because he is super, super good at super speedways and Daytona specifically. He won the Daytona 500 earlier this season. And look, he's a great plate racer. And if we're looking at his numbers at Daytona, past 6 races, he's got 2 wins, 3 top 5s, and he's actually led the most laps. And he's been fantastic. Now, fast laps, they don't mean a thing here. And that's why I don't really care about dominator points, because look, the lead's going to change. It's going to interchange a lot. There's not a lot of dominator points, and fast laps are completely random through the field. The guy that's leading all the laps doesn't mean he's going to get all the fast laps here. As you can see, they are very spread out. Like Nemechek got 7 fast laps one race, McTell 6. I mean, it's just completely spread out, so you can't rely on fast laps, and you really can't project them. You should probably take them out of your projections. If you're making your own projections, you can try, but it's kind of pointless. Now, laps led, yeah, guys like Hamlin, Blaney are probably likely to lead some laps in this race, but fast laps, it's random. You can't project it. But Denny Hamlin, I would say he's the favorite to win this race. He's the favorite in Vegas. He's super good at Daytona. You get a little bit of PD upside as well. Like if he was starting 4th, I'd probably shy away from it, but starting 10th, you get a little bit of PD upside there, and you can certainly win this race. So Denny Hamlin's one of my favorite drivers that is starting inside the top 10, top 12, whatever. So I do like Hamlin. I think he's a fine play here, but again, do not go too overboard on these guys starting up top, because they tend to not make the optimal lineup. Then we have Kyle Busch, 10,200. He is starting 11th, and I don't typically like playing Kyle Busch at plate races. I don't know. He just seems to get pretty unlucky. Now, was it Talladega? I believe he was leading quite a bit of laps, and he looked strong, but again, it's all about how you finish here. Starting 11th, he's fine. I'll play a little bit of Kyle Busch. I'm not going to fade him, but look, he's got an average finish of 21.3 at plate races, running position of 18.2, 1 top 5. I mean, this is actually the past 6 races at Daytona. And it's not that pretty. I think there's better plays on this slate for sure. I'll have a little bit of Kyle Busch, but not someone I'm going to go out of my way to play. But Ryan Blaney, I do like Ryan Blaney. He's one of the better plate racers, and he's been very good at Daytona as well. He's actually led the second most laps led at Daytona the past 6 races. He's got an average running position of 13.5. He's typically near the front. You just kind of have to hope he avoids the wrecks, but very good plate racer. If you're looking at the past 10 races at these, he's got 2 wins, 94.7 driver rating, the most laps led per race, 3 top 5s. So I like Ryan Blaney. Him and Denny Hamlin are my favorite drivers that are starting near the front, and I'll probably be the heaviest on those 2 guys that are starting inside the top 10 as well. So Ryan Blaney is a fine option. You get a little bit of PD upside, and I think he can certainly win this race. And he almost won the race, the Daytona 500. He was right there with Denny Hamlin. I actually thought he won it first, and I was super happy because you guys know I'm a big Blaney fan, but unfortunately he did not. But he won the Talladega race. I forget how long ago. Was that about a month or 2? But he did win that race, and I think Blaney's fine here. So I do like Blaney. Eric Jones, 9,800. I think there's a good narrative here for Eric Jones because he's got to win this race to make the playoffs. Like, he's got to, and he's going to be highly motivated, so I think he's a pretty strong GPP play. But I think there's a good chance Eric Jones is going either wreckers or checkers here because the guy is going to have to win this race. He needs to make the playoffs, and I don't know, it would just be a good story if Eric Jones makes this. He's losing his ride, and it would just be a nice story. So I like Eric Jones here. He's starting 20th, so you get the PD upside as well. And he's pretty good at Daytona, too. He did win a summer race here, the Coke, I forget how many years ago. I think it was 2018. I can double check that. Yeah, he won the Coke 400 in 2018. He started 29th and won the race. Now, if we're looking at his history at Daytona, it's not too bad. Has a win, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s. I think he's a fine option here, and he's going to be highly motivated, and this is his best shot at getting a win, and he's got to do it now. So I like Eric Jones. He's a little expensive, but again, salary doesn't really mean too much to me. So I like Eric Jones. I think he's a fine option. Keselowski, he's just starting 2 high up. He used to be a pretty good plate racer, but recently at Daytona, he's been pretty horrendous. Average finish of 31st, 0 wins, 0 top 5s, 0 top 10s, 1 top 15. Has led quite a bit of laps, but look, starting fourth, there's just much better plays on the slate, and he's very, very risky. I don't think I'm going to full fade any driver. I might just throw like 1% on like all these guys starting at the very front, just in case. Just in case. We did see Stenhouse start from first and win a race at a super speedway. Now, I don't believe he even made the optimal lineup, so again, even if these guys start first and finish first, there's a decent chance they won't even make the optimal because the place differential points will overcome that because the Dominator points aren't going to be significant enough to make these guys really viable. But you're like, if you're playing Keselowski, I'm talking like 1-5% max. He's just going to be a really tough play here, and he's had zero luck at Daytona recently. Same goes for Joey Logano. He's actually a very good plate racer, and if we're looking at the past 10 races for him at super speedway tracks, I mean, he's pretty much the number one guy. He's got the best driver rating, best average running position, 13.6 average finish, a win, 5 top 5s, the second most laps led per race. Daytona, he hasn't been as good as Talladega, but still solid numbers overall, and I would say he's probably one of the better picks to win the race, but again, starting third, I just don't see the upside here. I mean, if I'm going to play anyone inside the top 10, it's pretty much going to be Blaney and Hamlin for the most part. So I don't really think these guys are great plays, and like I showed you guys earlier, the numbers do back that up. It's not just me saying a random strategy that I'm hoping works. It tends to work every single time. Kevin Harvick, 9,200 starting first. You're probably thinking I sound crazy, but he is not a good play. I mean, guys, I'd rather play Michael McDowell over Kevin Harvick, like a lot more. So, yeah, I know it's Kevin Harvick. He's had the best car of the season. He's had the fastest car of the season. Means nothing at a plate race. I think Kevin Harvick's a pretty bad play, to be honest. He's averaging 4 DraftKings points per race, average finish of 23.8 here. He's got a top 5 and only 2 top 20s the past 6 races. No thanks on Kevin Harvick. I personally think he's probably the worst play on the slate, as crazy as that sounds. But it's true. It's true. Look at the numbers. It is true. The guy that's on the pole does not make the optimal lineup. Then we have Austin Dillon. He's really expensive for starting 12th. I don't understand that. I know he's okay at Daytona, but I mean, I don't know what DraftKings is really thinking here, to be honest. But, I mean, you could sprinkle him in because he's actually decent here. He's got a win, top 5, 2 top 10s, but I'll have limited exposure on Austin Dillon. I just don't think he's that great of a play. I mean, he's okay at these plate races, but, I mean, he could top 10. I'll give him that, so I'm not going to full fade the guy, but it's just an play, you know. Martin Truex Jr., 8,800. He's starting second. I said Kevin Harvick might be the worst play on the slate, but honestly, Truex might be the worst. He sucks at super speedways for the most part. Average finish of 23.8. Has 1 top 5 the past 6 races at Daytona. If looking at the past 10 races at super speedways combined, he's got 3 top 20s, 1 top 15. The guy's just been horrendous at these. 68.7 driver rating. Average running position of 20.3. It's tough sliding for Martin Truex. If you want to full fade Truex, I don't mind that, but I might just throw 1% on just in case. Just in case. I'm going to have a very wide player pool here, but I think Truex is a horrendous play. And so we go from probably the worst play on the slate to probably the best play on the slate in Brendan Gaughan at 8,600. You're probably thinking, why on earth would I pay 8,600 for Brendan Gaughan? Well, it's all about place differential. Brendan Gaughan's actually a pretty good plate racer. This is all he does. He also did the Daytona road course, but that's all he does is go Daytona and Talladega, and he's starting 40th. He's literally got the highest floor and highest ceiling combination here. I mean, I've seen multiple times where Brendan Gaughan's literally up front racing at a super speedway. I believe it was a couple of years ago at Talladega. Gaughan was literally in first for not long at all, but I think it was like half a lap or maybe in just a turn 3, I think. He was in first. Now, he ended up getting flipped like 10 seconds later, but that's what can happen at these kind of races. But the dude's a good plate racer, and for the most part, he'll hang around back, and at the end of the race, he'll make some noise. And if you're looking at his numbers at Daytona recently, averaging 44 DraftKings points per race, average finish of 16th. And look, these guys do hang around the back and they finish strong. Look, average running position of 25.1, which is awful, not awesome, but an average finish of 16th. He's got 2 top 10s, 3 top 15s, and 4 top 20s. Sorry. And then if you're looking at his past 10 races at super speedways, average DraftKings points of 40.6, 2 top 10s, 4 top 15s. And let's just say he finishes 20th. Let's look at the heat map really quick, because I already showed you guys, so I'll do it again. So Brendan Gaughan, if he finishes in 20th place, he gets 44 DraftKings points. If he finishes in the top 15, which he's done multiple times, he gets 54. If he cracks the top 10, he's getting 60 plus points. He's just a fantastic play here. The floor is great, and he's just pretty much the best play on the entire slate. He's expensive, yes, but I'd play him at like 10 or 12K. It doesn't really matter to me. Love Brendan Gaughan. I'm hoping the price tag keeps people off him because I just don't think you should fade him. And if we're looking at his ownership at Daytona 500 this year, I believe he was only 27%. He was starting near the very back, so there's still an edge here. He should be the highest owned driver on the slate, but I'm not sure he's going to be. Then we have Kurt Busch at 8,400. He's starting 13th. It's not really my favorite play, starting 13th. There's not a lot of upside here. He's a guy you can sprinkle in a little bit, but if you're looking at his recent track history at Daytona, average finish of 26.5, 0 top 5s, 1 top 10. It's just, he's an okay play. He can certainly top 10, but you're pretty much just hoping he avoids a wreck and gets a good finish. He's not like a standout play to me. But I'm going to be playing a lot of these guys that are in place because they'll go overlooked. And look, it's pretty random here, so if you just avoid the wreck, she'll be looking good. Like this race, it's hard to project, and obviously you don't know who's going to finish well, but you can set yourself up for success just playing the strategy, like the roster construction strategy, just focusing on guys in the back, some guys in the middle, and very sparsely, what's the word for that? Very minimal exposure to the guys up front. Then Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 8,300, starting 31st, and I actually think he's one of the best plays on the entire slate. And I know what you're thinking. Why would we play a guy that loves to wreck at a track that produces the most wrecks? Which, it's a valid point. But he's kind of backwards where he's actually does not wreck at these types of tracks, and he's also very, very good at them. He's actually one of the best drivers at super speedways. Looking at his average drive rating, is at 94.1. He has a win here. Now, recently, he's not been getting great finishes, but he's been in the top 24 of the past 6 races. He's been one of the biggest dominators at 20.2 laps led per race. Average finish is 17.3, but he's starting 31st. He's going to be a fantastic play here. Looking at the past 10 races at super speedways, 3 top 5, some of the most laps led. Now, it's because he's really good at Talladega. I'd say he's better at Dega than he is Daytona, but these tracks are very good for Stenhouse. Average running position of 11.7 at these types of tracks, and he tends to get his way up front. So I love Ricky Stenhouse. I think he's an excellent, excellent play. Eric Almirola, 8,100. He's starting 5th. So kind of like Stenhouse, where he's better at Dega. Because if you're looking at Dega numbers for Eric Almirola, he's been fantastic. Like one of the best drivers. 7 top 20s, 6 top 10s, 3 top 5s. He finished 3rd backwards at Dega earlier this season. Average finish at 12.3. But if we just go to the Daytona specifically, the numbers do fall off a bit. Only 1 top 10 and 2 top 20s. Average finish of 19.8. Running position of 17.5. So starting 5th, I'm probably not going to be playing Almirola, but he's a guy you can put like less than 5% exposure on, just in case, because he's a good plate racer. Then we'll drop down to the 7K range, and we have Alex Bowman. He's 7,900, starting 8th. And look, he's good at Daytona, but he's just one of those guys that tends to get into the mess a little bit. But he's got 5 races here. He's got 1 top 10, 2 top 15s, and 3 top 20s. He's got one of the best average running positions of 10.8, one of the best driver ratings. But there's just not a whole lot of upside here starting 8th. So he's one of those guys. I know it sounds like a broken record, but we don't know exactly how this is going to play out. But we know that the guys in the back are better plays. The guys up front are tougher plays. Starting 8th, there's a little bit of room for success there, but very small. So I think that should reflect in your ownership. Same exact thing goes for William Byron. He does have a top 5 here, but again, you got to get really lucky with these guys starting up top. Clint Bowyer, 7,600. He is starting 14th. I guess he's okay. He's been all right at Daytona. He's got 4 top 20s here, 3 top 15s, 2 top 10s, and a top 5. But again, he's also pretty risky starting 14th. I love the guy starting in the back. Like, I know it sounds gross, but guys like Ty Dillon, Ryan Preece, Daniel Suarez, Joey Gase, these guys are all better plays than Logano, Keselowski, and Kevin Harvick. As crazy as that sounds, if this is your first NASCAR race, your mind's probably blown a little bit currently, but this is one of the wackiest races you will probably watch. But Daytona's awesome. Great to watch, great for DFS, super, super fun, especially when the wrecks go your way. But anyway, Clint Bowyer, I'm not going to full fade the guy. I'll have a little bit of Clint Bowyer, but not like on the top of my radar. Christopher Bell, 7,500. He is starting 23rd. Now, I believe at Talladega, he was inside the top 5 for a little bit. Then when he restarted on the front row, I'm pretty sure he got a violation, and then he kind of just screwed your race. So he went from the hero of the slate to not being very good whatsoever. But starting 23rd, I think he's an okay option. He only has 1 race at Daytona, finished 21st, but I mean, it's pretty much just hoping he avoids the wrecks. Starting 23rd, there's some place differential upside. The price tag's fine, so I think he's an okay option. Jimmy Johnson, 7,400, starting 7th. People are probably going to play him just because he's Jimmy Johnson, and he's got some decent numbers at Daytona recently. He's got a top 5, 2 top 10s, 3 top 15s, but again, starting 7th, it's a very risky play, and you're pretty much hoping he's going to win the race, which could happen, so that's why you should have very small exposure, but overall not the best play in the world. Cole Custer, he only has one race here, and it did not go well. He finished 37th. He scored negative 17.5 DraftKings points, and that's what happens when you're qualifying not in the back and then you crash out. That's exactly what can happen, and that's why you avoid these kind of guys in cash games that are starting up top, like Keselowski, Logano, Harvick. Like, they're good drivers, but they get caught up into a wreck. Yeah, that's what they're going to do. They're going to get negative 17, negative 20, negative 30. So avoid these guys in cash games. Custer starting 16th, not my favorite play in the world. So he's kind of a guy you just maybe throw in a little bit, but not much. Ross Chastain, 7,100. He's starting 36. Yeah, we're going to have some interest in Ross Chastain. Now, his numbers at Daytona aren't great, but they don't have to be great at starting 36. You just need to get like close to a top 20. He's got an average finish of 21.5 here, which will certainly get the job done. And he's averaging nearly 35 DraftKings points per race, averaging 10.3 place differential spots per race as well. I think he's one of the better plays on the entire slate. You're probably going to try to get him in cash games just because of where he's starting, and I would totally agree with that. MDB 7,000, starting 15th. I think MDB's interesting. He is pretty good at plate races. He's averaging 40 DraftKings points per race at him. 17 average, or at Daytona specifically, average finish of 17th, 2 top 10s, 3 top 15s. The problem is he's starting 15th, so it makes him a little bit risky, but I actually think he's one of the dark horses to potentially win this race. And he's also one of the bubble drivers, so he's going to be motivated to run pretty well here, so I think that's another boost for MDB, so I think he's a fine option. Then dropping down to Michael McDowell, 6,900 starting 26. I actually think he's one of the better targets on the entire slate. He's averaging nearly 50 DraftKings points per race here. He's got an average finish of 11.8. That's so good. An average finish of 11.8. 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 5 top 15s. He's been phenomenal at plate races, especially Daytona. He's very, very good at Daytona. So I think Michael McDowell is an excellent option here, starting 26. I'm hoping the price tag keeps people off him, and he's not starting that far back, like in the 30s, so that might keep more people off of him. But I think he's a fantastic play here. He's averaging 11.7 place differential spots per race. Just avoid the wrecks, and that's pretty much what Michael McDowell's been doing. He's been a fantastic play. Then John Hunter Nemechek, 6,800. He only has one race here, but he did finish 11th, so he did fine. And he got 48.5 DraftKings points. And obviously he had a race at Dega as well, so he's got 2 races at super speedways, and they've both gone pretty well. He's got an average finish of 9.5, averaging 51 DraftKings points per race, finishing the top 10 at Talladega, and I think he's fine. He's averaging 13 place differential spots per race at super speedways so far. Now, it's only a 2-race sample size, but starting 24th, I think he's a fine option. Then Bubba Wallace, 6,600. He is starting 21st. Another pretty good plate racer. He's not like a top 10 guy usually, but he's been in the top 15 5 out of the past 6 races at Daytona. Average finish of 16.5. Average DK points at 32.5 per race. So I don't mind Bubba. And he's starting 21st, so it makes him a little iffy here, but I think that makes him a pretty solid tournament option. So I'm not going to go too crazy on Bubba, but I think he is certainly playable here. Then Ryan Newman, 6,500, starting 22nd. I think he's one of my favorite tournament options on this slate. I'm not sure how chalky he's going to be because he's starting 22nd, but Ryan Newman's just phenomenal at plate races. Like, he actually has the best average finish at Daytona the past 6 races. So let's take a look into his numbers. He's got 45.8 DraftKings points per race, the best average finish of 8.2, 2 top 5s, and 5 top 10s. The past 6 races at Daytona, he's finished in the top 10 5 times. He's just been so good here. He almost won the Daytona 500. Then he had that unfortunate wreck. Like, it was a very, very scary wreck. I'm surprised he's okay, to be honest, but thankfully he is. But he is super good at Daytona. And if you're looking at Dega as well, average finish of 11th. The past 10 races at super speedways, over 40 DraftKings points per race, 7 top 10s, 2 top 5s. The guy's been great. He just knows how to stay alive long enough and then get a good finish, and I think he's going to do that once again. So, like Ryan Newman a lot, he's also very, very cheap, very easy to fit in your lineups. Tyler Reddick, 6,400. He's kind of just a guy he's probably going to have low ownership, so you play a little bit just hoping he gets a good finish, but that's pretty much all I can say. He's got 2 races at Daytona. They haven't really gone well. Average finish of 27.5. But again, you got no idea if these guys are going to get wrecked or not, so you're kind of just putting a little bit of exposure on them just in case. Matt Kenseth, 6,300. Yeah, look, it's only a 1-race sample size the past 6 races, so I'm not going to use any of this. But he had an average running position of 6.6, drive rating of 100, finished 27th. Again, I am not really looking into this. He led 21 laps in that race, but there's just really nothing sample size I can use. He's in a new car now. He's retired. But starting 19th, he's okay. He's kind of like a guy you throw in 5-10% and just kind of hope he squeaks by and gets a good finish at lower ownership. That's really all I can say about Matt Kenseth. Ty Dillon, 6,100, one of the best plate racers, starting 29th. I think he's a phenomenal play. He's averaging nearly 40 DraftKings points per race here, average finish of 16.8. He He has a top 5, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, looking at Talladega as well. Past 10 races at super speedways, he's got 8 top 20s and 10 tries, which I believe is tied with Ryan Newman for the most, which it is. So Ty Dell and Ryan Newman have been very consistent at these types of tracks, and I think he's a fine option at only 6,100 starting 29th. Definitely someone I want in my lineups. Chris Buescher, 6,000 starting 17th. So look, he's great at Daytona. I just wish he was starting a little bit further back, but I think that makes him a pretty solid tournament option because I feel like people will be turned off from Buescher starting 17th, but he's great here. Averaging 41 DraftKings points per race, average finish up 12.8, 3 top 5. That's phenomenal. 3 top 5s. I think that's tied with Denny Hamlin for the most, to be honest. Yeah, tied for the most with Denny Hamlin, the most top 5s the past 6 races at Daytona. Denny Hamlin and Chris Buescher. Probably wouldn't have thought I would say that at the beginning of this video, when you started watching this video, but he's got 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s. I think he's fine in tournaments. I really do. He's a very good plate racer and he just knows how to grab that good finish. And pretty much all these guys are good plays. I'm not going to go too in depth here, but Ryan Preece starting 28th. Yeah, he's a good play. He can get you the place differential side. Daniel Suarez riding the lawnmower. I think that's probably going to help him. I think that's going to make him even a better play because his car sucks and he'll probably be running around the back. And then once the guys wreck, that lawnmower move on up. And we should be able to sneak out a top 25, top 20 from Daniel Suarez. And I believe he's one of the only drivers to not DNF this season, him and Kevin Harvick. So I think Suarez being the lawnmower honestly just helps him out a little bit. Starting 30th, I think he's fine. Joey Gase, he's averaging 31.7 DraftKings points per race here, average finish of 25th. Hey, that'll get the job done. I think Joey Gase is a fine play. Corey LaJoie, I wish he was starting further back, but at 5,300, you gotta like him because he's been one of the best drivers at Daytona just for DraftKings purposes. He's averaging 40 DraftKings points per race here, average finish of 19th. He's got 2 top 10s, 3 top 15s, and 4 top 20s, averaging 15 place differential spots per race. Corey LaJoie is fine. Josh Bilicki, James Davison, no history here at Daytona, but starting 39th and 38th. Again, they're in your player pool for sure. JJ Yaley, he has 2 races here, averaging 53 DraftKings points per race. He's got 2 top 20s in those 2 races as well. Average finish of 15th. He's fine starting 13th. I have no issues with that. Timmy Hill's playable as well. Brennan Poole's playable. He's got 1 race here and he finished 16th. That went well. And then Quinn Houff. Again, these guys are all in play. I have no issues with any of these guys, as gross as that sounds. I'd rather have more exposure on Corey LaJoie than Kevin Harvick. For sure, not even close. So hopefully this video was helpful, guys. If you made it all the way through, please let me know in the comments below. Do appreciate you guys watching. And if you guys want the DraftKings contest, make sure you comment your username down below. And I'll try to let you guys know what the cost of entry is. If it's too much, I don't know. Well, it's not going to be too much. It's going to be anywhere from probably $1 to $5. So. But that's pretty much going to be it, guys. Remember to leave a like if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. Check me out on Patreon if you want. Follow me on social media. That's pretty much going to be it. And I'll look forward to seeing you guys on the live stream on Saturday.